What's up, everybody? Uly Monster, fastest knockout in combat sports history, here with a day in Miami, and I got the little monster with me. And today we got Stuart Warren Dansby, my brother in the fight game.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm saying my brother in the fight game. I know, you guys are thinking, does he really fight? He absolutely does, and we have a great story behind it. How you doing?
I have never been better my whole life, brother. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here and sharing a
Absolutely.
time with you.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really a privilege for both of you.
Yeah, thank you, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And I want people to hear your story. It's great. I know, I wanted to get to the beginning real quick because I know it starts off with you were born in Japan, of all places, right? From
Yeah.
Konnichiwa. How did that start?
Tachikawa Air Force Base. So I threatened my friends. I'm like, I could still run for president because I was born on American soil. But yeah, I was military father, Depression era parents. So we lived all over, and that was where I was born. And then we bounced to Greece, and my mom was Canadian, so we spent a lot of time there. So we were all over the place in a good way for my first probably 10, 12 years growing up on military bases. And back then you think that's a pretty strict, rigid way to grow up. You get to be, 18, you think your parents don't know anything. And then all of a sudden as you get an adult, you're like, wow, what a great way to grow up. Because it helps me now. It's one of the reasons why I love Miami, right? Because it's so multicultural, and that's the environment you were in. You were the new kid living in Greece, and it's like, here, boom, here you are in the middle of this. Adapt or be miserable, right? So it was pretty cool when I look back on it.
So you said for the first 12 years of your life you were moving around like that. Where did you finally settle in? Where did you grow?
Colorado. Yeah, and
went to high school there and everything.
Yeah, went to high school there, and then we had something called, I think, the Blizzard of '82, where we couldn't leave the house for 5 days, and they declared martial law. And I remember this. I'm like, this is bullshit, because I am the biggest cold candy ass on the planet, right? And then that summer, I went to try and go water ski in June, and I had to wear a wetsuit, and I was frozen after the first day. And I'm like, that's it. I'm moving to Miami. And I was in my mid-20s. And I still go back to Colorado almost every summer. I love the mountains in the summer. I was up there all last year, just to chill and live up there and be in some cool weather that we kind of bitch about here in Miami in the summer. But I want to be by an ocean, and I love the warmth, man.
Yeah, there's nothing like Miami to be by the ocean. We were actually just in Denver as well, because I fought in Denver a couple months ago. Yeah.
How was the altitude?
So I lived in Denver for a little bit. I was on and off. I'd go from Miami to Denver. This is back in 2014 or 15. I remember getting off the plane. This is back then. Getting off the plane and immediately kind of feeling like lightheaded a little bit, and then eventually a few hours later, I still feel a little better and start eating some. This time around, it didn't happen to me. At the beginning, it happened to me at the end. After I was there for maybe 2-3 weeks, is when I started feeling all my joints and everything was bothering me. Yeah, but it is a beautiful place to live. Definitely.
It is. Yeah. It is great culture. Everybody's outdoors. They just need an ocean and some warmth.
Yeah, that's true too. It's cold there all year round. So how did Miami come into play? All places.
I was 27, immortal, and bulletproof, and this seemed like the perfect place to move. And it was Miami in the heyday of the drugs and the violence. And most movies don't portray things realistically. When you see the movies about Miami in the 80s, it really was. And I look back now with friends that died, friends that ended up in rehab but never recovered really, and just the crime. It was really that crazy. But I was in a different place and really loved the energy of the town, and really, it was my first real exposure to Latin culture and diverse Latin culture, right? Because growing up in Denver, you have Mexican-American culture, and as a ignorant human being, you think that's it. You think that's Latin culture. Right. And there's nothing, it's good, but it's so diverse and there's so much difference, right? So I was like, wow, it really opened up my eyes.
Yeah, you came down here and got your Latin woman for sure.
I did.
Have you learned any Latin or anything?
Listen, man, Junior, I know enough Spanish to get me in trouble with my wife. I do not know enough Spanish to get me out of trouble with my wife. And even if it was my first language, I would not know enough Spanish to get me out of trouble with my wife.
Listen, it's hard to get out of trouble with your wife. Stu, so let me ask you, when did fighting come into your life?
It's interesting. I trained my whole life, just lifted weights, like everybody else, and you think you're in shape, and you think you're still an athlete. And I wanted to box, and I reached out to a couple friends, and I had a buddy that said, hey, I got a friend that's a kickboxer. I'm like, kicking, it's not my thing. I want to box. But I'm like, all right, let's try it. And I remember the very first time he trained me, and it was the most humbling, difficult, awkward thing I ever did. I was like a rock'em sock'em robot. I was so stiff. And I remember at the end of the session, he said, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, hit me. And at this point, I realized this guy's a badass, right? And I'm like, no. And he says, no, hit me. I'm not going to do anything. I just want you to hit me. And he stood in the pocket and he didn't move, and he deflected everything. And I'm standing there like this. And I felt, as a man, I felt impotent. I'm like, holy cow. But it pulled me in. I'm like, I gotta be good at this. I was just captivated by it. But I was horrible. I remember I was training for about, 6 months or so. The guy that's training me was one of Manolo's students.
What age is this that you started this?
40, 47, 48, late, almost 48. And we're training for about 6 months. He goes, okay, to low kick, middle kick. And he says, throw a high kick. And I kick him like mid-quad, right? And he said, no, bro, I said a high kick. And I'm like, it was above your knee, motherfucker. I'm like, that's my high kick. Like, I was that bad. Though, by far the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. It just challenged me so much.
And who was it at that time? Was it Greg Choplin you were training?
No, it was a guy that, so I trained under two guys, Manolo Lopez, who I know you do, Freedom Fighters MMA, in the MMA Hall of Fame for Florida now. And Greg Choplin's 3-time WBC Muay Thai champion. But at that point, I was one of Manolo's students was training me. And we started going to Manolo's place, which then was Tigres, because Manolo and Tigre were together. And we just started sparring. And I told my buddy, Ernie, I said, I want to fight. He said, no, you don't want to do this, bro. It's a life you can't imagine. You can't party. It's a hard life. It's strict, it's disciplined. We'll just spar at different places. And I was okay with that for a while. And then I started training in KO Zone. And Diego De Vera, you know Diego. Yeah. So Diego starts saying, all right, we're going to start testing for belts. So we start doing testing for a belt in American kickboxing. And I get to a brown belt, and then he comes up to me one day, and he says, hey, it's time to test for your black belt. And I was like, holy crap, right? So I go to Greg. I was probably looking for a compliment. I say to Greg, hey, Diego wants me to test for my black belt. Do you think I'm ready? And your coach, any good coach knows how to be in your head, right? And Greg looks at me and he goes, well, I have a different take on it. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't think you can be a black belt until you've taken a fight. And Uly turns and he walks away. And I'm staring at the back of his head in my head going, you motherfucker, you just called me out. And I knew at that moment, like, this is your moment. Greg will never say it again. He's not going to bring it back up. I know him. But this is your moment. All the stuff you fantasize about in your head, all the stuff you wonder, can you do? You either step into it now or you shut the fuck up.
And how old are you at this point?
55.
55?
Yeah.
This is what you're thinking about taking your first fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the only argument, because again, you also know you can't ever win an argument with your coach. So they're trying to tell you how to do the technique right. You're like, no, this is the better way. You never win those arguments. The only argument I've ever won with Greg. So I told him, like a week later, said, I want to do this. He goes, just think about it. I'm going to go to France for a couple of weeks. Let's come back and we'll talk. And he comes back and I've dropped like 15 pounds already. And he said, okay, you're serious. I'm going to get you a fight. I'll get you a fight with somebody like in their 50s. And I went, nope. He's like, all right, I'll get you a fight with somebody in their 40s. And I said, nope. He's like, dude, stop it. All right, somebody in their 30s. I said, Greg, let me be clear. You will get me a fight with a first-time fighter, just like I am. And if he's 22 and he beats me, it's not because I'm 55. And if I beat him, it's not because I'm 55. The best fighter is going to win, but I'm not going to have an asterisk by it because I fought somebody my age. And that was the only argument I ever won with him, ever. So he said, okay. And that's what happened.
And they got you a fight.
Yeah, I fought in a tournament.
How old did the guy end up being?
So I fought in a tournament, had 2 fights that night. The first guy was 26, and then the second guy was 19. I got to the finals. I lost to the guy that, like, tall guys. I hate tall guys. He was like 6'2", and I lost to him in the final. And it was a nasty fight. We were both talking crap, and he was really talking shit, right? And the fight ends, and as soon as it ends, like the second the bell rings, he turns to me and goes, "How old are you?" And I'm like, "That's your question?" And I said, 55, right? And he's like, "No way, no way." So the coolest moment, when they announced him as the winner of the tournament, and they held up his hand, he grabs my hand, and literally, I have a picture of this, he's crying. And he goes, "This is your champion. This is your fucking champion right here," right? And it was such a surreal moment. And I know those moments where you're killing each other, but you bond when it's over with, right? And it's such an extraordinary bond. And we still keep in touch. But that's kind of what inspired me. As I was doing that training camp, guys were coming up to me and telling me, "You're inspiring me." And I really was like, I'm trying to knock somebody out. I'm just focused on that. I don't know what you're talking about. But it kept happening. And after that tournament, I'm walking off the mat. Grown men were coming up. They were hugging me. They're telling me crazy stuff about how this changed their thinking. And I just said, okay, I've been blessed with a journey I shouldn't have. My coaches are opposing coaches. They see each other at opposite sides of the ring of the cage when they see each other, right? They come together at this one moment to coach this amateur hack fighter. And I'm like, I've got 2 of the best striking coaches there are. So I just said, I want to pay this forward. I have a mission that I want to do, that if this journey inspires people, I want to teach them how they can truly get out of their own head, understand what their dreams are, and how to achieve those dreams, right? It's not just, okay, this is my dream, I'm going to sit here and wish for it. No, you've got to give that dream, I call it I want it more than I want to breathe energy, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's a good quote from what's his name, Eric. He's a public speaker. That's his thing.
Is it?
Yeah, you gotta
okay.
wanna breathe.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, it's not my original quote. I also heard Conor McGregor say it years ago when he was on the rise, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. But you really do. You got to, because we've all given up when we had more to give, right? And we all beat each other in our own head. I don't have the resources of that person. I'm not as smart as that guy. I can't be open a business because I don't have finance. I can't be an entrepreneur. I can't get that kind of girlfriend, that kind of guy, boyfriend. And we beat ourselves up as opposed to saying, all right, this is what I really want. Now, can I open my mind, because it's going to take a lot of personal growth, and can I work beyond my limits, right? And every time you do, it's remarkable. And you know that better than I do.
And the consistency is what keeps opening those doors for you. And so you started at 48, 55, 56 is your first fight. You're 64 now, right? So this journey's been, it's been a while. It's over a decade you've been doing this.
Yeah.
And you've been, collecting your content throughout this time.
Yeah. So I went to my partner. I'd done some work with a company called Roar Post years before that. My wife and I had a television show we created called Live and Lead Miami. We got some national syndication. The show lost its funding, but Carlos always said, "Hey, if you want to do something else, come talk to me." So I call up Carlos and I said, "I got an idea." And so I drive over his office here in the Gables and I meet with him. And for an hour and a half, I just pour my heart out. This is what I've been doing. This is what I love. And he looks at me and says, "Okay, because this isn't a fighting story." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "It's not. It's a story of love." And I just had an epiphany. I'm like, "You're so right. It is. It's the love of my coaches, the love of my teammates. It's the love of a dream. It's really about that." And the documentary is that. We use fighting as the metaphor to tell the story, because we all have a fight. And I know I've said that and you've seen the documentary, but it's really true, right? So I look at Carlos and I said, "So I want to make this documentary and I'll fund it out of my own pocket." He goes, "Okay, what you just described." He goes, "You got $250,000 in your pocket?" I'm like, "I won't fund it out of my own pocket." And he gets quiet and I said, "But you're still talking to me." They said, "Yeah, we can partner on this, but we have to do it on my time when my guys are not working." And I remember, and I said, okay. And he said, and you have no creative control. And I'm like, okay. All that changed, right? Because I ended up co-producing it with him. But my wife after that said, how long do you think this will take? And I'm like, yeah, 6 months, we'll have this done. And I was sharing with Junior, it was 9 years ago in this June. So it took 9 years to get it on all these national platforms. And for the last year is when we released it into film festivals. And we've got screened in 25 film festivals, domestically and internationally. And I'm not making this up when I say this. It sounds weird. We've won 31 awards for the documentary, which is a little surreal. But to me, I'm just a conduit to tell the story, and it's really now driving people to watch it because it's everybody's story, right? It's no more of a fighting documentary than Rocky is a boxing movie, right?
That's amazing. Congratulations on that, because we know what it is to, we're putting out a movie that we made for him on a film festival soon. We made a short documentary about myself. We won a couple of awards too, so I know what that is, and I've seen the work you've put in behind this. And like you said, something you thought was going to take 6 months, it was 9 years in the making.
Yeah.
And you're finally going to be able to release it soon, correct?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, iTunes, Apple TV, Google Play, and Fandango at home. And it's in 36 different countries. So yeah, it's the journey continues like everything though. So now it's driving people. It doesn't mean anything if it's on there. It means something if people watch it. I probably went to about 6 or 7 film festivals last year, and my oxygen was people that would watch it in the audience, then come up to me and say, I'm not an athlete. I would never watch a fighting documentary, but something made me watch this. And they said, I got it. I get the message. And that's my oxygen, because we didn't make it just for fighters. Fighters will get it. Athletes will get it instantly, right? But it's really made for the average person to say, we all have a fight. How do I battle through mine? I think one of the coolest things was the LA Documentary Film Festival. We were blessed to win that for Best Feature Documentary. And they sent me a screener's review video, right? So they had 6 people review it. And they called me like 2 days later. They go, dude, you didn't respond. Did you watch it? And I'm like, no. They're like, why didn't you watch it? And I'm like, because if they hated it, I don't know what to do. True story. And they're like, you dumbass, you just won the film festival. Like, watch it. So I watched it, and that was the coolest thing, is none of them were athletes. You could tell. They some of us called it he's a boxer. And I'm like, that's great. But every single one of them got the message in their own life of how to apply it, right, and how to really do it. And
Never too late.
No, it's never too late. And in my case, I have no ACL in my right knee. I have grade 4 arthritis. It's literally bone on bone. If I showed you a picture of my right knee, you'd be like, dude, that's one solid bone, because there's just no gap in there, right? According to the last surgeon that was in there, talk about collecting content. I'm in the recovery room. It's about 5 years ago, because I had to have the rest of the cartilage cleaned out. I tore it again training. And I wake up and he goes, Stuart, you good? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, okay, we cleaned it up. And I said, okay, cool. And he goes, well, no, now it's reality time. And my wife Stella's sitting there, and I'm like, what do you mean it's reality time? He said, here's the truth. Your next surgery is a knee replacement. And I'm like, what? And he goes, look, dude, medically speaking, I can't explain how you can walk on this. Much less train, much less fight. Now, I'm in the recovery room. If you ever had surgery, you're kind of like, and I'm like, hang on. All right. Doc, one question. What? Can you say that all again on camera? And my wife smacks me. She goes, what the hell is wrong with you? He's talking about your body. And I'm like, that's great content, right? So we did. And you saw him. He's in Mauricio. He's in the documentary talking about that. My left knee has a surgically repaired ACL, grade 4 arthritis. I have degenerative disc in my back, and I have asthma. So kind of to what you said, man, I always have an expression, right? 3 things happen every day: excuses, apologies, and results. Only one matters, right? So I have every excuse why not to do this, right? But if that dream is there and that passion is there, it's never too late. You find ways to not look at these things as problems, not look at them as obstacles, but really look and say, it's a challenge. Because my son will hate me for this, but if you walked up to him and you said, hey, Billy, what's the difference between stress and challenge? He's going to roll his eyes. And he's going, perspective, because he's heard it his whole life, right? And what it is you take, when we look at something as a problem, if I walk up to you, Junior, and I say, you got a problem. We got a problem. Right now, how do you react internally? You go, oh, crap, we got a problem, right? Instantly, you start thinking of stress. But if I walk up to you and say, Junior, we have a challenge. Let's talk about how we're going to overcome it. Where does our mind go then? Our mind goes into positive energy, right? So that's the difference between, are these obstacles? Are they problems? No, they're just challenges, right? And my coaches know how to work around those knees.
No problems, only solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So right now at 64, grade 4 arthritis in your knee, documentary done. What is the future looking like for you, Stu?
So, training-wise, I still train 6 days a week. Training's different, though. A couple of those days are active recovery, a lot of stretching, a lot of shadow boxing, and I still spar once a week down at Freedom Fighters against those monsters. But where all my energy right now is in driving this message, driving people to understand the message of the documentary and for them to watch it. I have my first public speaking engagement that I'm about to do to continue to drive that message. So, and I'm also finishing a book called Taking the Fight, and just, you would understand this greatly, and I'm sure you'll do it. The lessons that fighting teaches you in your life and how you can directly apply that to your life, right? So it's continuing to grow this message, because this is what I am most passionate about, and to affect as many lives as I can positively, and to use the hard knocks lessons that I've learned along the way to help guide people. And I think the biggest impact you can have on people is that, what do you leave them with? That's your real legacy, not how much money you made. Nobody stands over your grave and says, man, this guy made so much money. If they do, I don't want them at my funeral. Right? But your true legacy is the impact you have on others. And that's what I'm just 24/7 motivated to do. Right? And I catch myself, because there's days when I'm like, that guy in the documentary, you weren't that guy today. You were average in either how you treated somebody or in how you functioned, right? You weren't that guy.
We're all human.
Yeah, we are. My wife said to me, after we watched it for the first time at Mann's Chinese Theaters, where we had our world premiere, the first film festival, it was surreal, right? Because
Chinese in Los Angeles,
yeah, on Hollywood Boulevard, right? That was the first place it was screened, and I'd never been there. I'd heard of it, so even when I got there, I was like, wow, this is surreal. And we watched it on the big screen, and of course you've watched it, but you see it on the big screen. And my wife said, how does it make you feel when you watch it? And my answer was, I need to be that guy all the time. That's how it makes me feel. For that to be authentic, I have to strive to be him as much as I can. Doesn't mean you can't be forgiving to yourself when you're not, but it means you're aware of it and say, okay, what can I do to improve every day?
Absolutely. And live up to the values that you're, projecting.
Yeah, that's really it. You said it well. Live up to the values that you're preaching and that you're showing. Live it in every aspect of your life.
Absolutely. I fight with myself on a daily basis to make sure I stay on that right path too. So, and fighting as well has been a major help for me. But I tell anybody, it doesn't have to be fighting. It could be anything you have in mind that you want to do. It's just, first off is taking that first step. And once you take that first step, stay consistent. The consistency is going to keep opening every door for you.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's painting. It doesn't matter if it's fishing. It doesn't, find that thing you're really passionate about, right? And then continue to push yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's where the growth is.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine ask me last year, she said, when do you think you're going to retire? And I'd never been asked that. I just said, I don't know, man. What age should I stop growing? What age should I stop improving? What age should I really stop contributing to others? Because I don't see that. I don't see me sitting around just waiting to die, right? I always want to push that.
Yeah, absolutely. If the day you stop moving or doing anything for yourself is the day you die.
It is. And the day you start, listen, we all crave the comfort zone. And that's good, right? You want the comfort of your family. You want the comfort of a nice home. You want the comfort of a great meal. But you also have to have that, from my point of view, in moderation and recognize that that's great. Appreciate it. But the growth is what allows you to have that comfort zone. The pushing those limits, it's where you get that comfort zone. So if you're just going to sit in it and retire, if you look statistically, the biggest spike in alcoholism in an age group is when people retire. You think about it. You retire. What are you going to do? Shit, I can drink during the day now. Boom, boom, boom. And then now you're just waiting to die. Now you're growing old.
That's right.
Right?
Setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep working, guys.
Yeah.
Don't retire.
Whatever it is.
Life will take you out.
Yeah, and it's what you said. It doesn't have to be a 9 to 5. Not saying that, but something that you are passionate about, that you're growing and you're contributing. Wow, that's what it's all about, right? We only have so much time here.
You're right. Try to make the best of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Stuart, man, I appreciate you, brother, coming out here today. You know, I look forward to your documentary, blowing the roof off this thing. That's awesome. I hope, I say this all the time too, I hope that maybe, I just one person, doesn't have to be a million. If just one person changes their mind.
Yep.
And like Tupac used to say, I might not be the guy to change the world, but I'll spark the mind of the person who changes the world. And hopefully, with your message, you get to do that because you're spreading a great message. It's positivity. It's telling everybody out there that to chase their dreams, and they can do it if they just take that step and no excuses.
That absolutely can. And I thank you sincerely. It's an absolute privilege to share this with you and to share it with Junior, who's become one of my newest idols. And
my hero.
Yeah, and I got to, as you know, I got to see the documentary that you're about to have in this film festival here, and it's a great story, man. So you're what it's all about too. Okay?
Yeah, before we end this, we got UFC 304, Leon Edwards against Bilal Muhammad, and Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades.
That's right. Who do you like right there? Who do you like on Bilal Muhammad and Leon Edwards?
I think it's gonna be an upset, and it's gonna go to Bilal Muhammad.
I like that. But I think you like Bilal Muhammad because we met him, right? He is a nice guy. He's good. But he's been working really hard for this fight. So I think you're right when it comes to this fight. It's going to be a tough one. And who do you like? Who do you like out of those two guys?
So, yeah, I think Muhammad, he's got a lot of ground skills and aggression that may cause Leon some problems. But I still think Leon is probably the most underrated UFC champion right now. So I'm going to lean in on Leon. I don't think he gets quite the credit that he should. So I'm going to go with Leon. I
agree with you there, and I feel the same way about Bilal Muhammad. He don't get enough of the credit he deserves as well. But you're right. It's there's two dogs in there. They're definitely he is an underrated champion, but he is a champ, and he got there for a reason. Bilal's been hungry for a long time.
Yeah,
kind of been overlooking him for a while.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think he's gonna bring the pain. As for Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades, that's gonna be a hell of a fight as well. I like Curtis. I think he's a tough guy, but I think Tom is too much for him. I think Tom with the stand up and just his strength and another dog fight, but I like Tom Aspinall on that one.
Yeah, what do you think, Junior? Yeah, I'd agree. He's just dynamic. And if he doesn't win, the UFC's in trouble because they've been putting a lot of money behind him.
A lot of money behind him. The fight's in London for both of them. Tom Aspinall and Leon are both from England. So it's gonna be a good card.
It will.
UFC 304, right?
What do you think? Yeah, 304. What did you think about the Jake Paul fight?
So I just really refuse to watch anything Jake Paul. I got to be candid. And listen, he's a hell of an entrepreneur. He's done a great job marketing himself, and his business model is smart, right? You can see what his business model is. But and he's definitely a decent boxer, but until he starts going against real pro boxers, then I'll watch.
I think, and this coming from me, a fighter, a guy who's made his living off fighting. Nothing but respect for Jake Paul, man. At the end of the day, it's called prize fighting.
Yeah.
He's getting a big prize.
He is.
You know?
He is.
He's getting who knows what he's getting, but he's getting a lot of money for
Yeah.
it. So he put on a huge show.
And he's done it himself.
And he has fought real fighters. He hasn't fought no slouch. He fought ex-champions, and yeah, maybe he gets them at a certain age and everything. But he's putting in the work, you know.
What did you think of that fight? I just saw the highlights.
So I was part of his training camp for this fight coming up. I was one of his sparring partners. I was in Puerto Rico with him. I got to spar with him. I got to see him work. He puts in the work. You know, he's got a chef. He's got the top of the line coaches, flying in sparring partners from everywhere to get into good work. So he's putting in the work. You know what I mean? He's putting in more than respectable amounts of work and doing what he needs to do and spending money on himself to get himself to this level. And his first best asset is that he comes from the internet world and he knows how to use the internet to
absolutely
manage his brother. So he's doing the right thing. He's setting up his future, and at the end of the day, you know, if you're making a ton of money, and I'm talking about like myself as a fighter, I've been in these positions where I get the 3-second knockout and my name's going around the world, and you know what happens? People start calling you out because they think you're the next big fight, and you're like, I don't give a shit about that. I'm looking for, whether I fight you or you, it's where the biggest check is coming from. Because at the end of the day, I got to feed my family, I got to feed myself, and I got to keep this going. So, you know, I think it's a great business move.
So I didn't realize you sparred with him. How would you rate his skill level?
I think he's doing great. I think he's great, man. You know, I sparred with him in 2019. He wasn't that good then. Then in 2022, when he came to Miami, he was all training out of here. Sparred with him there. He had gotten a lot better. And then now I just went to Puerto Rico, and he's a lot better since that. So he's definitely just stepping his game up. Huge advantage from his probably like a 25, 26-year-old kid. You know what I mean? So and he's a big kid. He's like 6'1", 6'2", 215 pounds. You know, and he knows how to move around. So he's definitely, from my perspective, that I've been there in several years sparring with him. He's gotten a lot. He's gotten great.
Good.
Very respectable game.
Respect then. Respect.
What do you think, Jim?
I think Jake Paul is a great fighter, getting better step by step. I think I don't like how he called out Alex Pereira, because Alex Pereira was a kickboxer himself, and he's a striker when you see him, and killed people too. So like,
but I think Jake Paul knows what he's doing. Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
For sure he does. As a marketer, he's brilliant. As a brand builder, absolutely.
Alex Pereira can't fight him even if he wanted to, just because of the UFC contract. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just building hype, and that's okay.
Yeah. So Tom Aspinall and Bilal Muhammad this weekend, UFC 304. Hey, well, it's another day in Miami. Uly Monster got the little monster and Stuart Warren Dansby. You guys look out for his documentary. It's called Take the Fight, correct?
Taking the Fight.
Taking the Fight. It's on all platforms. Check it out when you get a moment. Leave a review. Let them know you guys saw it, heard about it here. And now you watched it. Thank you guys for tuning in.